Well, this afternoon we're in Stranraer, the forgotten corner of Scotland's forgotten corner, Dumfries and Galloway. Although actually, down here on the Mull of Galloway, when I stand at the tip of the Mull of Galloway, south of here, I always think I'm in the middle of the United Kingdom. Because you can see from there, Scotland obviously, you can see Ireland, you can see the Isle of Man, you can see England. And you think, when you're standing there, what madness it would be to break up the United Kingdom, because we are, after all, really one people. The extraordinary thing here, down in Galloway, is that many of the indigenous people of Galloway are, in fact, Gaelic from Ireland. That's why it's called Galloway. And of course, across in Ireland, many of the people there are Scots. That's the crazy thing about it from a historical basis, and why the SNP's racist idea that Scotland is one homogeneous entity, one folk, is historically wrong. Now, Stranraer has been in the news lately because Boris is talking about putting a tunnel across from here to Northern Ireland, and George is going to talk about that in a minute. What a fantastic idea that would be for keeping the UK together, but also, most importantly, trading together and able to maintain those ties of family that we all have much more easily. From my perspective, living further along the A75 back towards Gretna, towards the English border, what a fantastic thing it would be for the regeneration of this part of Scotland. Many of the towns along the A75 are struggling, boarded up shops, very little industry left, and the only money really is from farming and tourism. Tourism really not doing that well in Scotland at the moment because our brand has been tarnished by you-know-who. So I think that the tunnel is a great idea. The other thing, looking across the water here into the Irish Sea, is of course there is now a border, a hard border in the Irish Sea that there never was before. Very difficult now for farmers on either side of the Irish Sea to trade with each other, to send pedigree cattle backwards and forwards, for example, because of that border. It's easy to blame Boris for that. In fact, he didn't want it. It was Europe who put it there. And it grieves me as a former soldier who spent quite a lot of my youth keeping the peace in Northern Ireland to see that the effects that it has had there on people, unionists in particular, who are not happy about it. Borders, as I've said in previous videos, do bad things to people. And that border in the Irish Sea is the very last thing we want to see between Gretna and Berwick. So, on the 6th of May, we need to do something about this. Down here in Galloway, we are ruled from a central belt dominated Holyrood. Devolution isn't working. To make it work better, the power and the money has got to be devolved further down to regional councils like this one down here in Dumfries and Galloway. Devolution has to be made to work better. We've got to get this threat of separation off our backs, end the never-endum, allow the economy to start growing again. So, tactical voting. First vote, the party most likely to put the SNP out. Second vote, orange ballot paper, all for unity. Let's together put the SNP out and put a pro-UK, pro-business coalition in. Thank you.
Bravo! Woo! Woo!
Thank you very much, Jamie Blackett. Another wonderful, stirring speech for the Union. Great Britain, the Union is what we stand for. We don't like borders. We think borders are a silly idea. And the idea of putting a border between Scotland and England in these circumstances, when we've just had a devastating pandemic and the economic wreckage from which is only now hoving into view, is quite simply insanity. And we believe that the south of Scotland would be affected by the putting of that border worst of all. We believe in linking, not dividing. That's why I was one of the first political figures in this country, in the whole country, to call for, in those days I called for a bridge between here and Northern Ireland as a means of increasing the traffic of people and goods between the two territories, as a means of assuring people that whatever happens politically in Ireland, the proximity of our islands means that we will be forever neighbours and will have forever the most special of relationships. The bridge that I had in mind 20 years ago, I pressed it on the Tony Blair, Gordon Brown administration, has now become a tunnel, and I wholeheartedly support it. We need it here in what Jamie called this forgotten corner of the forgotten corner. I've got to tell you, Holyrood is as far in people's minds from here as Westminster is. Forgotten corner of a forgotten corner. We need it. We need the work. We need the business. We need the infrastructure development that must come with that tunnel. We need the upgrade of the A75. We need the border railway. We need this tunnel. We need this work. And we need to hold the government's feet to the fire to make sure that they embrace and welcome and facilitate this development. When Johnson proposed this tunnel, the SNP rejected it out of hand. Why? Why would you reject it out of hand? And if the SNP government should, God forbid, they be re-elected on May the 6th, if they refuse to participate, this tunnel must be built. It must be branded as a British project, and we should not allow the records of the SNP to get in the way of what would be a tremendous boost, both to Ireland and to Scotland and to the United Kingdom. So, as someone who from the age of 5 took a ferry to Ireland from here, I want to say that I will fight in Holyrood if I'm elected for the best and speediest possible start to this project. The truth is, the SNP don't care about this area. It's not really their bag. The SNP is a creature of the Central Belt in Scotland and Dundee, my old hometown. People in the south of Scotland don't want separatism. They rejected it in overwhelming numbers. And by the way, All for Unity is the only party that will give the south of Scotland, if God forbid there ever is a breakup of this country, will give the south of Scotland the right to remain in the United Kingdom if that's what they choose to do. So bear that in mind also. You might see behind me, it may have gone now, a ferry. Ferries are in the news. We, once a world center of shipbuilding, have become so degraded as an industrial power under the SNP that we can't even build ferries. We've got two rusting hulks in the shipyard, costing hundreds of millions of pounds, years behind schedule, that have never sailed and maybe never will sail. That's what the SNP have reduced us in Scotland to. I could talk, as I have at length in previous speeches, about all the other failures of 14 years of SNP government. There's only one thing at which they have succeeded. They have succeeded in tearing Scotland apart, turning area against area, turning folk against each other, introducing the poison of nationalism into this country. The very idea that what we need now is another referendum so we can all tear each other apart again is simply nonsensical. It would be nonsensical at the best of times. At the worst of times, it is simple insanity. So it's in your hands. Next week, on the 6th of May, you get the chance to change Scotland, to change Scotland's future. Here, in this constituency, you should vote for Finlay Carson on the purple ballot paper and vote for us, Jamie Blackett and me and Dr. Bruce Halliday and the rest of our candidates, standing for unity, all for unity, on the peach-coloured ballot paper, the orange ballot paper. And if you do, I promise you, you will never for a moment regret it. We will stand up to the SNP in a way that none of the other parties have shown in the last 14 years that they are able to do, able or willing to do. Who do you think Nicola Sturgeon least wants to walk through the doors of Holyrood to stand up against her, other than me? You know that it's true. Whether you like me or you don't like me, whether you agree with my politics or you don't agree, you do know that on this one subject, I'm speaking for the majority of people in the south of Scotland who are crying out for people who will stand up to separatism, stand up for the union. You know that if you vote for us on the orange ballot paper, it'll only take 20,000 votes to elect one. It'll only take 35,000 votes to elect two. And I'll tell you this, we'll take the place by storm. They won't know what hit them. I'm there, if I get there, with your support, to open the books on every miserable scandal and failure that has been the hallmark of 14 years of SNP rule. I'm George Galloway, and I'm here to see the books. Thank you very much for watching.